Hey friends, it's Bill McDonald, the reading and writing doctor here. Today we're going to work on the fourth grade most difficult question from my practice test from elementary. And it just so happens to be another question about a paragraph, a main idea, what something is mostly about, mainly about. So remember that if you have a paragraph, the first sentence is not always the topic sentence. It's not always the main idea of a paragraph. Sometimes it's just the first sentence in a sequence. So if you were to place a paragraph like this, let's do it like this, it might be a ladder, a sequence ladder. This is the order of things that happened. But sometimes when things are written in a cause and effect relationship, then it doesn't always work in terms of a main idea. So what we have to do is check and see the answer choices to see uh, do the answer choices have more ideas in the sake of the question. For the sake of the question, we're going to look at about the cause or about the effect. And so what I would recommend that you write down your notes is two things. In baseball, you get three strikes and you're out. But in reading, for main idea, for mostly about, for mainly about, one strike and you're out. If there's one detail in the letter choice that's not true, then you have to eliminate that one. That one has to be out of the choices. The other thing is if you can only find one detail about that letter choice in the answer choice in the paragraph that's being discussed, then it's also out. So DS, dollar signs, no, detail sentences, uh, one strike and you're out. One thing that's not true, and only one detail that we can find that's true, and you're out. So think of that, the details and the strikes, the things that are not found in the passage. So I'm going to show you that question on page 15. It happens to be on the same page as the third grade question that really struggled with mostly about. The words were just slightly different in the fourth grade one. It got 41% correct. Readiness 4.11a. And as you see, slightly different. In third grade, they called it 3.13a. They were both readiness. But we're going to play a game called One Strike and You're Out, or only one detail and you're out. So paragraph one is mainly about. And so here's all the choices. And so what I did this time, I went ahead and used my Read-Vising Graphic Organizer. This time, because it's a reading question, we're going to use it as a reading strategy. So there's a hand. And so I'm going to give you a hand. They're asking a question about paragraph one. What was the question? What is it mostly about? What is it mainly about? What's its main idea? Sometimes the topic sentence does help, but in this case, because the paragraph was divided into a cause and effect relationship, we've got to see if more of the details in the answer choices were about the cause or if more were about the effect. And so just a brief summary, it in the first sentence, it was the eruption of Mount St. Helens. The second sentence was the rumblings that happened on March 20th. On the third sentence, the erupting magma that causes some constant earthquakes. And the people that were evacuated supposedly to a safe distance, and then all the effects of people wanting to see and view and check out this interesting phenomenon because of all these things that were happening that were unusual. Uh, Only one effect was people leaving to go to a safe distance. The rest of the sentences, all of these four, were about them trying to get a closer look. So let's take a look and see how we can play the and so I just so real quick, I put a T there for transition. We transition from the causes, the things that had happened first and their effects, what people did because of those things, or we can call it actions, transition, reactions. So as I looked through the letter choices, letter A said the people in the surrounding areas only uh, being evacuated to safe distance so they could not be injured or killed. So that was the only detail about people moving away instead of towards it. So remember one detail and you're out. Only the fourth sentence had that. So you're out. That was letter A, as you can see here. All right. Letter B, many people viewing the rumblings. Okay. Uh, that began in sentence 5 and it happened all the way to sentence 8 in paragraph 1. I went ahead and divided it. You can see here in sentence 5, here's the sentence 4, the people being evacuated. Uh, It became a tourist attraction. Ding! They gave daily reports on the blessed places to get an interesting view. Ding! The crews flew in helicopters to the summit. Ding! People were even climbing the top of the mountain. Ding! The day passed and rumbling failed to develop anything dramatic. Ding! Their view. People grew restless and said the volcano was not going to erupt. Okay, so all of these things were as a result of the beginning stages. Now, because that first part here does mention erupting, we've got to decide if that was the case. So if you look, the people coming to view it as a special event, well, you can see they put it on the news. People were climbing the mountain, um, and only one sentence was it viewed as a dangerous situation to stay away from. So in more cases, people were getting closer. Letter C, sentences 1, 2, and 3. Um, we'll call it C for cause and C for letter C. All right. The eruption and the exploding of Mount St. Helens and the damage that it caused to people and nature. Okay. We understand that if there's even one strike, the answer choice is out. But I found four things that are not true about this letter. It didn't explode, and uh, there does mention some. They do mention some eruptions and those effects, but not the actual explosion that takes place later in the passage. It doesn't mention any damage whatsoever, strike 2. It doesn't say the damage that was done to people, strike 3. It doesn't have damage to any nature, strike 4. And none of that was in paragraph 1. Those things are mentioned in the passage. So if the student was to rephrase this, the passage is mainly about, then possibly it could have been this letter choice being a bigger distractor. But since they were only asking about paragraph 1, that's a completely different question altogether. The earthquakes that caused the rumblings. Okay, so if we see here on my little hand that I drew, the earthquakes are mentioned in sentence 3, And so all of the rumblings were mentioned in sentence two. So it means that because the rumblings happened first, it's sort of showing you that the earthquakes were in effect. And so the rumblings caused the earthquakes. The earthquakes did not cause the rumblings. And so you have to compare the relationship between those two ideas. So that one would be wrong because it's the opposite of what actually happened. And that, again, that was only one detail because more of the sentences were talking about the way that people reacted to it, especially trying to get a closer view. So the best letter for this one would be letter B. So talk to your kids about baseball, 3 strikes and you're out, and then one detail and you're out. The dollar sign, the ching ching ding. That was the reason I was making the ding sounds was because of uh, dollar signs, details, and strikes. If there aren't enough details about that letter, it's out. If there's too many strikes, 1 strike or more, if even one detail is not true about a letter choice, then you can eliminate it. And on that one uh, letter, what was that? Letter C, because only the first detail was true and 4 other ones were false, then you would eliminate it for the strike, the 1 strike rule, which happened to in this case be the 4 strike rule. So email me at writing_doctor@yahoo.com. Our next video will be the 5th grade most missed questions. So you can see that in the same way that in revising students have struggles writing a a topic sentence or a main idea of a paragraph, students struggle with understanding what a topic sentence or a main idea. So if you can't even read one and have understanding, then how are we going to be able to write one with understanding? And so I would highly suggest that you have your kids work on main ideas of a paragraph using the ding ding, the the dollar signs, the details and strikes rule, and hopefully that will help your kids. Take care. God bless.